Hello, and welcome to Experience of the Soul, a weekly space to help you grow, prosper, and live with courage and compassion. In today's episode, spiritual teacher and author Cynthia Alice Anderson explores the powerful question, what do you truly believe? As we examine whether our actions align with our spiritual values and discover the personal creed that guides how we walk through the world. So, take a breath, listen with an open heart. And now, Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host. I'm also lovingly known as RCA to friends and family. So, my friends, welcome along the journey with us. Today is going to be a great day. We have a wonderful show planned as always. My producer is here with his short segment, Mr. Sean Kilgore. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you so much. Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 403 of Experience of the Soul for Monday, March 9th. But you might be joining us at any time, and whenever you are joining us, we are glad that you are here. Today's episode is called My Creed is Love. So we're looking forward to getting into that. But before we get to that, of course, this week in spiritual history. So this week feels kind of calm. There's kind of like a gentle nudge back to center. There's nothing too crazy or dramatic in this week. Just kind of steady. So sometimes that's exactly what we need.
I was going to say, sounds great. Steady.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
now,
right.
Great.
Like I'll take it. Can I have that every week? Can I order that every week?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
So all week long, members of the Baha'i faith are in the middle of their 19-day fast, which runs from March 2nd through March 20th this year. It goes from sunrise to sunset each day. So they're fasting during the daytime hours. The many choose to do that as a way to sort of just gently refocus their hearts. It's a season of prayer and renewal, a quiet clearing of space before the Baha'i New Year begins.
I love that Baha'i faith. Everything you say about it. Yep.
Yeah. Beginning at sundown on Friday and continuing through nightfall Saturday is Shabbat HaKodesh. This is a special Sabbath before the Hebrew month of Nisan. It's a moment that many Jewish communities observe as a gentle turn toward the season of spring and liberation, reminding us that renewal often begins in quiet anticipation. Renewal often begins in quiet anticipation. Yeah.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Sunday.
Well, that's really what we're in. No, that's what we're in really now in Lent also. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So Sunday, with that, Sunday is La Touré Sunday. I believe I'm saying there, La Touré. Yeah. It's the fourth Sunday in Lent in the Christian calendar. So this is often seen as a small lift in the middle of the reflective season. It's a gentle reminder that joy and encouragement are part of our spiritual path. Even in seasons of discipline and introspection, light is still present.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And our Just for Fun this week is today, Monday, March 9th, and it is National Napping Day.
Sign me up.
I know, right? It's a real thing. This is observed the Monday after daylight savings time begins, and it gently encourages rest and recovery. So even if you're not listening on the Monday this episode dropped, honestly, I feel free to celebrate. Whenever you are listeing, I highly encourage it.
I think a nap is the key to world peace. A nap.
Yes. Yeah, everyone should have a nap. If everyone just laid their heads down for a little bit in the middle of the day, right? Maybe we'd be a little better off. Spiritually speaking, of course, renewal, we know, starts simply with closing your eyes and taking one deep, good breath.
Amen. Well, I've been so focused on that myself in my personal journey and in the community, at Unity of Daytona Beach. I just talked about that a few weeks ago, and I have people hitting me up already. Oh, you weren't kidding. Those deep breaths, gosh, changed my whole perspective,
Yes.
Gets us out of that reactivity mode, and back into, okay, yes, I want to make some kind, decisive action, but I don't want to be in reaction, So it really helps with that.
Yeah. And then something to think about, friends, where in your life is it time to rest? So something new can quietly begin. And we'll let you think about that as we welcome you once again officially to episode 403, My Creed is Love.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sean. It was a great segment. My creed is love, my friends. And I really wanted to talk about this today because uh, I hear so much and see so much online about, people saying what they believe, and then I see actions not matching up. And a part of my training in becoming a minister was we had to write out almost as a thesis, provide support and action and all of this. For to become a minister, we had to turn in what was called our personal credo. In other words, what do I believe? And so it's a credo, not just because I say I believe it, but because it guides my behaviors, my actions, my words. Like it literally is how I live. And so, first, to even know what a credo is very, very helpful, of course, because if we don't know what it is, we can't do it. So, I decided to talk a little bit about this today because so many of you, as my listeners, grew up in different churches. If we were in church right now, I would say, how many grew up Baptists? How many grew up Methodist? How many grew up Catholic? And in most unity churches I've served, at least half have grown up Catholic. And so in the Catholic Church and in the Methodist Church, we have things called creeds, right? You've heard of this, the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, and all of those creeds they're saying this is what we believe. Like they go like, I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, who in Jesus Christ, the only Son and Lord, was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, dead, and buried. It goes on. Third day he arose from the dead. Anyway, and so these are creeds. These are a set of beliefs that the Methodist Church abides by. And so, depending on the church that you grew up in, you probably also had a set of beliefs. And those beliefs in many churches have become what we now call, they're so far beyond just beliefs, they're dogma. And if you don't believe the exact same way, we're going to send you to hell because our church has the answer. And what the idea behind a creed is that it is, yes, a guiding force, but as a spiritual community, it's kind of a guidance. It almost puts rails on, okay, this is what we believe about God, Jesus, and your spiritual experience. Well, the denomination that I'm in now, in Unity, we do have a set of beliefs, but they are so broad, which I believe is why we are so attractive to people coming from other different denominations. I'll give you what our beliefs are in a minute. But in Unity, we have like 5 basic tenets, in other words. So in churches, though, if you grew up in a church, the church said, this is our creed. In other words, this is our beliefs. You are to follow them. And in other words, the beliefs were imposed upon us from the outer organization. That's not bad. That's not good. It simply is. When you say you want to be a part of a church, you have to say, I agree to the very best of my ability to behave in this way. I want to believe what this church believes, so this is a fit for me. But what I've noticed is that so many of us that grew up in these churches, we said all these words, but we didn't exactly believe them. And I know that because of the actions associated with these individuals. So how you know you believe something is your actions align with your words. Your actions align with your beliefs. And in so many churches where dogma has become, if you say all the right words, you're welcome here. Well, listen, we see these names on the news now of people that say they're Christian. They're mentioned in the Epstein files. Oh, there's been a new age spiritual leaders and teachers in that as well. So, and I myself am not new age. I am new thought. It's a very specific delineation. But having said all of this, the question for us becomes, what do I believe? And am I really in alignment with what I say I believe? What is my own personal creed? It's like if the church wasn't giving it to you, what would you say you believe? And interestingly, for me, in the last year, I have seen people that call themselves atheists more in line with what Jesus taught than people who call themselves Christian. And Sean, I think you know what I'm talking about. You've seen it online. We've seen it within people we know and love. People will
Yeah.
say, right, that they
Right.
believe something or they're Christian, but their actions are everything but Christian.
Right.
And that's not a harsh judgment. That's a discernment based on behaviors, you know. So there's many creeds as there are religions, right? And every religion is simply trying to figure out how do we know God and to give people a set of beliefs that each specific denomination or religion believes helps their people get closer to God. So creeds are not bad, but what would happen if we discovered what our own creed or my own personal credo is? What is my credo? I discovered through a variety of spiritual experiences that my dogma is God, my creed is love. And what I mean by that is if you are seeking God to the very best of your ability, it doesn't matter what religion it is, I will find a way that we can connect because I believe God is bigger than any religious institution. I believe God is bigger than any name we call God. I believe God is even bigger than Jesus. Even Jesus said, I of my own self can do nothing. It is the Father within me that does the work. So, and you might say, well, what about the atheist? Well, even an atheist believes in something, even if they think they don't. I know this because I've counseled many people who have said they were atheists. They're not really atheists. What they've lost faith in is the institution of the church. They've lost faith in the God that they have been taught through creeds and recited prayers. So for me, when I say my dogma is God, it means if you want to love God, if you're trying to serve God, if you're trying to know God in whatever way that is meaningful, that is holy, that you're seeking the sacred in your life and world, I am going to find a way to connect with you. And even if you think you don't believe in God, I still can because I can hear under that seeming like hard atheist shell, because a lot of times there's a harshness when people say they're atheists. There's a biting energy to it. I've met people that grew up Jewish, say they're atheists. They've grown up Christian or Mormon, they say they're atheists. After 30 minutes of talking, God is right under that. So my dogma is God, my creed is love. And that means for me that in every situation I find myself in, I'm going to do my best to love big in that situation. I'm going to do my best to come from love. I'm going to do my best to see love. I'm going to do my best to see beyond even unloving behaviors to what is that healing need underneath, and that helps me get to love because I can hit compassion there. And I know that this is what I believe because of how I walk through the world. And so this is what I mean about you discovering your own personal credo. I often get asked about my relationship with God and with Jesus and my study of other world religions. I just had somebody ask me the other day about my relationship with Jesus. And I said, it's so interesting because growing up in the Methodist church, we talked about Jesus, we celebrated Jesus. In the Baptist church, I learned I needed to accept Jesus into my heart. And And I did that. As a matter of fact, I think I did it twice just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And on a regular basis, I would recommit my life to it being in service of Jesus, and that I made sure I was praying to Jesus in the right way. My heart was so sincere. Well, as I grew and developed spiritually, I learned that Jesus was not just a man and not just the Son of God. He was both equally. That Jesus was both God and man, and that in fact, what existed in him as the Christ, the light of God, was so fully known, right? But that we have a little spark of that. John 1 says, in him was light, and the light was the life of all people. So, my friends, I discovered that there's more than Jesus the man. There was the Christ essence. And so in unity, you'll often hear ministers say, Jesus the Christ. We're acknowledging Jesus the man and his Christhood. And then we turn around and say, I behold the Christ in you. As a human being, we might say to each other, I see the Christ in you. Because what we believe is that Christ essence is in each one. Now, we say we believe that. But if you say you believe the Christ is in each one, and then you turn around and start gossiping about the person next to you, you don't really believe the Christ is in them. You believe you're better than them, and they are not as good as you. And I have seen it in every church I've ever served. So I'm saying all of this, my friends, about what do you believe? What is your credo? What is your credo? What are the beliefs that you follow? What are the actions you take? What are your guiding principles? Because whatever are your guiding principles, whatever your actions and words are, that is your credo. And that comes from within you, and no church can ever give you that. No church can ever give you, this is what you're supposed to believe. It is your own heart, your own soul, knowing God, that is going to move you in a more complete way into knowing and living your credo, with an immense purpose, an immense desire, to serve God in the world. So I want you to really think about this. Maybe even as you're driving down the road and you're listening, or you're maybe sitting at work listening, you're thinking, well, what do I believe? I say I believe in forgiveness, but I'm holding on to things from 40 years ago. I say I believe in love, and yet if somebody agrees with me, I'm going to take them out. I can't handle it. If I say I want to do something and somebody says they don't want to do it, I can't handle my emotions. So, my friends, that's what I mean. What do you really believe, and how does it inform how you walk in the world? We see every day politicians saying one thing and doing another. This is a classic and egregious example of somebody saying one thing and doing another. In other words, saying what they believe, but then their actions not matching their words. We see it with political leaders, yes. We see it with spiritual leaders. Some of the most prominent voices that speak against behaviors and activities, you find out a year or two later, 5 years down the road, they've been participating in that exact behavior on the side, undercover. Nobody knows about it. But eventually, everything comes into light, and here we are. So we see this all the time. So, my friends, for you, what do you really believe? What is your credo? And you might, if you really want to look at what you believe, you might go to the church of your origin, your first church when you were growing up in your family of origin. That first church often has a big part to play in how your beliefs are established. your belief about God, your belief about yourself, your belief about the universe, and how you fit. What is your place in it? Over time, as we grow and develop, life happens, and sometimes our beliefs shift and change. Sometimes they get more constricted because we feel we need control. Sometimes our beliefs get more broad and expand. And our credo might shift and change as we grow and mature in consciousness. So, what my hope for you is, as I'm speaking about this, that you will love yourself enough to see what it is you really believe, and to also kind of do a self inventory. Is this how I want to walk through the world? If this is what I truly believe, if this is my credo, am I happy with myself on this? Most of us right now are feeling very challenged to live love in the world with the way it is. How do we do that in our current climate? How do we do that? My discovery is my dogma is God, my creed is love. For me, it's very, very simple. Everything else falls under that. My dogma is God, my creed is love. I talked a little bit about my dogma is God, so my creed is love. Love includes grace, it includes compassion, it includes forgiveness, it includes loving friendships and relationships. It also includes loving enough to walk away from a situation that may be abusive, that may be hurtful. It's self-love. Self-love. So there is a depth to my very simple credo. My dogma is God, my creed is love. What is your credo? What do you believe? What I know is that how you walk through the world, how you make your decisions, your actions, those thoughts that are going in your head when nobody else is around, that is truly your credo. Now, we're all human. We're all going to slip down into the lower consciousness from time to time. But what you come back to, how you move forward, how you treat others, is going to be a very good indication of your personal credo. So I wanted to speak a few minutes about Unity's 5 basic principles, simply because I am a Unity minister, and the principles we have are so simple, and yet they're so broad and expansive. So Unity's first principle is there is only one presence and one power, God the good, omnipotence. And way back in the day, there was an argument, is God omnipotent or omnipotence? CE. And anyway, the final decision was God is omnipotence. In other words, all power itself, that all power, God is all powerful. That's our first principle. Our second principle is that God is individualized in each person, and we call it the Christ. In other words, there is a spark of God in every individual, and we call that the Christ because that was the holy essence that we know Jesus was, right? That Christ essence. Our third principle is we believe life operates according to the law of mind action, which means whatever I hold in my mind, you see what I've got on today, whatever I hold in my mind is exactly what I'm going to be in the world. The law of mind action is the law of cause and effect. If I love, I will receive love. If I forgive, I will be forgiven. If I judge, I will be judged, right? So we believe that the power of our thoughts and emotions go out and create the life we're living now. And then we work with the law of mind action. This is principle 4 through prayer and meditation using affirmations and denials. So in other words, we're going to do our part of learning the unity principles, of learning to live this power of God and the Christ in us in the world by praying affirmatively, by meditating, by lifting our consciousness up to the consciousness of God. And then the 5th principle is we practice these principles in every thought, word, deed, and action. In other words, we're going to do our very best to put what we say we believe in here in our heart and mind. We're going to do our very level best to bring that as an action out into the world. So this is what I love about our principles. And what I know about the people that sit in our spiritual communities, probably if I talk to every single person would have some slightly different view of God or even Jesus. And I'm okay with that because that's their journey. That's their sacred, individual, spiritual journey. And the way we can come together in spiritual community is are wanting to know God, are wanting to live a spiritual life. I find people I've met in unity to be some of the most gracious, generous, loving individuals I've ever met. My mom was a great lover of people. My dad was too, in very different ways, but they both loved people. They both loved kids as well. And when my mom first came to Unity, she said to me, "This is the most loving church I've ever been in. This is what I think heaven must feel like." And that touched me deeply. So, my friends, what is your personal credo? What do you believe? What guides your behaviors and actions? What guides your words? What guides your vote? What guides the way you walk through the world? What guides the way you shop and the way you relate? What guides you? Whatever that is, my friend, that is what you truly believe. And I hope you will do the deeper inner work to really, really take time and seek to discover this. Because you may find that one of the beliefs you're holding on to is from the past. You may find a belief you're carrying is not honoring of yourself, your self-worth, or your relationship to God. You may find that the way you have believed about a certain group or around a certain race or a certain income level is not the way you want to walk through the world anymore. So there may be a growth opportunity for you here. There may be a way for you to grow and develop in consciousness in a very, very powerful way. And that you can be clear, you can be at peace, that as you walk through the world, that you are bringing goodness, hope, love, and joy to other people. And that you yourself feel the love and joy of God as you walk through your day. If you're holding on to fear, if you're holding on to hatred of another, if you're holding on to, I'm better than you, this creates a dynamic that is the opposite of love and peace. And that is most definitely the opposite of God, Jesus, and the Christ that we talk about so often. So as you're being challenged, my friends, to live in the world, notice what are your choices? What are your attitudes? This will show you what you truly believe. And I want you to know, as you do this work, I'm going to be praying with and for you. And I'm going to honor your spiritual journey. I honor your process. And I know that you will be guided, you will be directed, and you will be illumined and awakened in a way to be more aware, that you're going to be illumined and awakened in your awareness of what is, of who you are, of who God is, and how you relate to the larger whole. My friends, you have an important part to play in the world in which we live, and in your divine purpose as a soul. So I hope this work that is to be done by you will be done in consciousness, that you will take the time, that you will love yourself enough to see what it is you truly believe, what is your creed, what is your personal credo, and that you will do your very best to live your highest and best in the world. So my friends, we love you, we bless you, and I lift you up in your process. My dogma is God, my creed is love. And I bless you as you discover more about what yours is and who you are. So many, many blessings on the journey, my friends. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson. This show is made possible by listeners like you, and your support helps keep these conversations available to all. If this podcast has supported you, you're invited to share it with someone you love or support the show at cynthiaaliceanderson.com/donate. Produced by Kilgore Creative and a production of the Soulworks Group Incorporated. We are so grateful for you, and we are holding you in prayer for God's highest and best in your life. Blessings on the journey. You're listening to the Experience of the Soul podcast channel, bringing you inspiration, teachings, and practices to support your spiritual journey.